Hey, Orion here. I've been podcasting for over 4 years now. 4 years. I started a bit unsure and insecure, but I am so much better and I'm a different woman today. I learned and grew so much. I grew as a person and I grew as a podcast host. And I had the privilege of talking with incredible people I never even imagined I can even reach. But regardless of how famous or not famous my guest is, sometimes you have a special conversation. One that is so stellar, you remember it even 4 years later. Welcome to Stellar Conversations. This is one of my absolute favorite episodes, and it will light up your day.
Welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. Get inspired and live out loud. From love, freedom, and success to having it all. Here's your host, coach, speaker, and shining star, Orion.
Roger, you're looking good.
Hey, it's Orion. Welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. I'm really happy that you're here. Today's guest is Ephraim Olschewski. He is a master listener and creator. He's a thought-after coach for executives, entrepreneurs, and highly committed people around the world. He had the privilege of working with some of the most powerful leaders alive. Honestly, I know him personally. He's a good friend of mine, and he is brilliant. He's, every once in a blue moon, you meet somebody that is very special in his thinking, in his abilities to transform people. He is one of those people, super special, super smart. And today's conversation is very, very interesting. So I know you will enjoy it because I did. We just, we started with one topic, we moved to another, but it was all about listening deeper, getting in that zone of abundance and brilliance and attracting whatever you want in your life. And now, my dear, on to the show.
2, 1, 0.
Hey, Ephraim, and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. I am very excited because we had many conversations, and every time I had a conversation with you, I left with something great. And even with a transformation, sometimes you host events, and I've attended one of your events, and it was mind-blowing. It was really good.
Yeah, thank you.
So before we start, why don't you just tell our audience a bit about yourself?
Well, I think probably the most important thing that I'd say about me is I'm a husband and a father.
And everybody just went, oh.
Really, that is the most important thing to me. That's really what my life is about. So, and as you know, we just had twin girls 11 or 12 days ago.
Congratulations again.
And it's been amazing. So that's fun. And I am also a coach. I work with highly committed people. I help them get more of what they want. In some cases, I help them get less of what they don't want. And also, as you said, from time to time, we've done events or intensives or courses. Another one coming up in January, actually. So
Nice.
That will be in Salt Lake City in my old home. Looking forward to that. So, yeah, we might talk a little bit about that. Who knows? So, yeah, thank you.
For sure. So what separates you from other coaches?
Well, I think I've worked with some of the best coaches in the world personally. And I think when we talk about coaching, it's such an interesting thing because coaching is one of those things like you can wake up one morning and decide, hey, I'm going to be a coach. And then you're a coach. And you can't do that in a lot of other professions. Like you can't wake up tomorrow and decide you're going to be a dentist and go start practicing dentistry.
Oh, that wouldn't be very good.
Yeah. And so coaching's like that. And the other thing that's interesting about coaching is that having a piece of paper or some kind of a certification, because, there's companies out there who do that, is that doesn't make you qualified as a coach either.
I totally agree.
Yeah. There's plenty of companies that'll give you a piece of paper and they'll say you're a certified life coach. And I tell people that I'm not a life coach because I'm not qualified to be a life coach. I've never, ever been a yoga instructor, so I couldn't be a life coach. But I think the thing about me that is different than what I think about in the work that I do, and I can't speak for all coaches, obviously, but when I work with somebody, I listen to them in a way that they haven't been listened to. And we really get to the bottom of, really at the heart of what is going on for them, what's holding them back, what's driving them, what's having them not get where they want to go, what's gotten them where they are today, and really getting to the bottom of that.
Yes, I'm in a mastermind, and yesterday we had a call and we actually talked about listening. And one of the exercises, we do it via Zoom. So we get into the Zoom rooms with a partner. And one of the exercises was to say something, but have the other person completely ignoring you. And so I practiced it with my friend. And while she was talking, I was looking in the mirror, smelling my shoe. And it was, when you don't listen, the other person, they shrink. People need to be listened to more. So how do you fine tune your listening? Were you born with it or did you develop it?
I don't know. I don't remember how I was born. And I think that what you're saying, though, is so important because this idea of listening and actually being a very effective listener, it's, in my opinion, one of the most lacking skills. And if not the most important, for sure, one of the most important that I think that a person could have to have success in their life. Mm-hmm. So mostly I think what we want to talk about when we talk about listening, it's not usually that obvious. When you're out at lunch with somebody or you're talking with them, or even if you're on the phone or whatever it might be, it's not usually as obvious as that you're ignoring them and putting on makeup and looking in the mirror and just totally ignoring what they're doing.
I know. I was just joking. I was like, oh, what an opportunity for me to be a joker. Let me try.
Obviously, you and I have that in common, I think. So it's much more subtle than that.
Correct.
What most of us are pretty good at looking like we're listening.
Yes, that's so true.
Or pretending to listen.
Yes, especially men.
I cannot comment on that. We're actually listening to respond. I mean, what are we listening to? I think if most of us get honest with ourselves, we're probably listening to the voice that's going on in our head, rather than what the person that's speaking is actually saying. And so I think probably one of the first things you have to do is get honest about, what am I listening to? Am I listening to what's going on in my head, or am I listening to what's being said? And really being with the person who's speaking. Mm-hmm.
This is a friendly reminder for you to visit www.stellarlifepodcast.com for show notes and information about this awesome show. Check out our Facebook group, Stellar Life. Sorry, boys, this is for women only. And get all information, including a checklist full of tips from the show at www.stellarlifepodcast.com. And if you're enjoying yourself, please subscribe and review. And now, back to the show. So, when you coach, do you say you're in the zone? And what is the zone?
I think what I just said is probably a good segue into it. And that is really, for me, if you're in the zone, or what they might call being in the flow state, or anything like that, it's really, for me, it's about, in a way, simply put, really being out of your head. Being in flow, like being in flow with the natural state of what, things are already happening. And most of the time people are missing it, being up in their heads, thinking about it and analyzing it. So being in the zone, I think, is a place where you kind of disappear. Mm-hmm. And there's just what's happening. And the sense of me being there is not really there. And so I would say anybody who has a level of mastery in what they do, whether it be a really great coach or a professional athlete or a CEO, if they have a level of mastery of what they're doing, when they're doing it, they really aren't there. There's no sense of themselves there. And I think that's being in the zone.
Mm-hmm. And how do you get in the zone?
Well, you can't make it happen. Isn't that the interesting thing about it?
I really want to make it happen.
I know.
I want instant gratification, and I want a magical pill for everything in my life. And I want a manual for my life.
Yeah. They make pills like that you take them, and I think they give you the sense of being in the zone, right? But it isn't really duplicatable or replicatable in the long run. In professional sports, athletes say that you have to let the zone come to you.
Ah, okay.
So being really present, right here, I'm intent, I'm focused on what's happening right now in this moment, not what happened even 2 seconds ago, and not what will happen in 5 minutes, or not what's going to happen in 5 seconds, but right here, right now. And then all of a sudden, the zone comes to you.
Mm-hmm. The last time I remember myself being in the zone where it was really vivid was when I did my first Aikido test. And I was with my partner, and it was, I swear to God, Ephraim, it was like a movie where I was doing the movement and I saw everything in slow. I could kind of like see what's happening before it was happening. It was almost like an alternate reality, and it was so cool. But you say, just let the zone come to you. And I'm like, well, it's not coming. Hello. I've been waiting for a while here.
I'm wondering when you were describing it, if there was this moment when you thought, I'm in the zone.
Oh, no, it was analyzing it afterwards. Like afterwards, I was just, what just happened? That was awesome.
Yeah. If you think you're in the zone, you're probably not in the zone.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm in the zone. And it's like, oh, I was in the zone. Mm-hmm. Until right then when I had the thought, I'm in the zone. Mm-hmm. So I think that it just doesn't work that way. It's not something that you can make happen. Of course, there's practices and things you can put into place. Like, I mean, isn't one of the purposes of meditation to be able to get into that state?
Right.
And be there more frequently? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you meditate?
I do.
Okay, what's your habits of getting into the zone? How many times a day do you get in the zone? Or the zone gets to you?
I know. I need like a notepad that I carry around with me.
You need a zone journaling.
I was in the zone. Yeah, the zone tracker. It's an app.
Zone tracker sounds good. Yes.
The interesting thing about being in the zone is that you really notice when you're not in the zone, at least for me. And then, okay, how do I get in the zone? You know, you're not in the zone when you're stressed out and you're anxious and you're all worried about the past or the future, or that's not the zone. That's not the zone I want to be in. Mm-mm. And so noticing what my actual state is, that's a good start. And then for me, I practice TM, transcendental meditation. And that's 20 minutes twice a day. So wake up in the morning, I meditate for 20 minutes. And then sometime in the afternoon, I meditate again for 20 minutes. And that's probably made the single biggest difference for me in my state of consciousness. That's really all we're talking about. The zone is just a state of consciousness that we can get into.
And so how do you meditate? If somebody's listening and they want to meditate just like you.
Yeah, learn TM.
Okay.
That's everyone that I work with, just about everyone that I work with. If you asked any of my clients, I think most of them now are practicing TM, probably because I wouldn't leave them alone about it.
Oh, wow.
It's like, you just got to learn TM. They're like, okay, fine, we'll go learn. I actually, you know who Ray Dalio is, the hedge fund manager. He started Bridgewater. He's the most successful hedge fund manager ever. Mm-hmm. And started Bridgewater, I think, in the 70s. And they grew that into, I think they have $160 billion under management or something like that. And I read a quote from him. He's been practicing TM for like 40 something years now. But I read a quote from him that was a little bit older. He said, I've been doing TM for like 35 years. So this maybe was 10 or 12 years ago. And this guy's pretty successful, worth $16 billion or something like that. And he says, whatever success he's had, that TM has made the single biggest difference in that success. So that's a pretty big claim for a guy who I've really admired and have an enormous amount of respect for. And I thought I probably should go learn this.
Right.
And there's centers all over the world that they teach TM. And I think that's made the biggest difference for me. And I've invested a lot into my own training and development and education. And I've sought out some of the best coaches that I could find.
And when you say a lot, can you just give our listeners a little bit of like the concept of what a lot means to you? Because you invested a lot.
Yeah. I think in the last 10 years, without sitting down and adding up every dollar, but I would say somewhere in the ballpark of $500,000 in the last 10 years.
Right. And this is also the amount that people pay you to coach with you.
Yeah. Yeah. When somebody works with me, typically it's at least a year, and it's $100,000 to work together for a year. And some people might go, wow, that's a lot of money. And I think if we talk to the people who work with me, they would tell you it's a bargain.
Okay, tell me why.
Well, when I work with somebody, for me, I can't work with somebody who I won't anyway, work with somebody who I don't really respect them and can't really. I mean, for me, it's such an intimate process and relationship of. There's things that I know about some of my clients that nobody knows about them, things that they haven't told anybody. And to be able to work with people in that kind of environment, and then, we'll go from something that's so personal, that would be too personal to even share in a setting like this, even as an example, and then to go to something like the next week we're talking about growing their business.
Yeah.
How did they double their revenue in 2018? And
it's all related.
It's so interconnected. There's no separation between it. But I think if somebody was thinking, okay, I'm looking for a coach, or somebody said, I think there's two things. People say to me, like, what are the top things I need to do? And I say TM and get a coach. If you can only do two things, just do those two things. But what's interesting is that it's very difficult for people to put into practice, like a meditation practice, even if it's only 20 minutes twice a day. So I guess people, start with what you can start with. You can do 5 minutes or 10 minutes. There is the saying that if you can't meditate for 20 minutes, if you're too busy to meditate for 20 minutes a day, then you should meditate for an hour.
Right.
And so I think about it like I get more time. So the time that when you're in the zone, you're more effective and you're more efficient. You get more done. And so I think about the time that I invest into that, I get more time back.
Correct. So how did you change your clients' lives?
I think I would have to say I work on the philosophy, and it's just my own philosophy is that for me, for my own personal life, if I had all the business success in the world and all the money in the world, and my life at home was a failure, then I would say that the whole thing is really a failure. Because to me, that's the important part is my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my kids. And then everything else is secondary to that, really. So when I work with somebody, it's really on that foundation that the thing, obviously there's an ROI for somebody who invests that kind of money in a relationship like this. But it's really about my relationship with myself, my relationship with the people in my life who are important to me, whether that be a spouse or children. And then if I have a business and most of the people who I work with, they're entrepreneurs or they're high-level executives, and they're responsible for, people performing.
Right.
And so that's really the foundation. But people who, I could tell you story after story. And I think what I'd say is probably what I am most proud of is the people who I work with, the clients that I have. I think it's the relationships. It's the relationships with their spouses, with their children, with their employees, the way that changes, and who they become for those people in their lives who they really care about.
Yeah, they take a stand for themselves.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, they get to make a lot of money or something. And that part's really great. And to me, at one point in my career, that was all about that for me. Everything about working with me was all about the money. And I would say, you can make more money, and I'll help you make more money. And there's an aspect of that because there is an ROI financially. I think that there has to be. But those relationships, I think that's what it comes down to, is the most important thing, at least for me. And of course, anyone who would work with me would align with that, or they'd go, no, that guy's crazy. Money's the most important thing. And that's fine. It just wouldn't be somebody who would want to work with me.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. So what will be your approach or tips on building a better relationship with self?
Well, one resource that we could talk about is the work from Byron Katie.
Oh, I love her. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, and I love Katie for a long time, and a mutual friend of ours, Robert, or I call him the Pope.
And I love the Pope as well. Robert Pope.
That's right. And he's really the one that turned me on to Katie's work. And for anyone who doesn't know about it, the 4 questions, and you can just Google the work from Byron Katie, and you'll find all sorts of amazing free resources about it. But that's, I think, the most effective, I will say meditation, because that awareness and that expanded consciousness, that state that I get in when I am practicing meditation, that transforms my relationship with myself. And then from that place, I can start to do things like the work from Katie. And I think about, if my mind was a garden, I would want to plant things that I would want to grow in there. And I'd also want to pull out the weeds and the things that I didn't want growing in there. And I think that's what the work is so good at doing, is seeing what are the things that are growing there? What are the thoughts and the things that I believe that just aren't true? And getting them out of there, or at least so that I stop believing the things that aren't true.
Mm. And just to clarify, Byron Katie's work is all about questioning your thinking. She has 4 questions and the turnaround, which is the 5th question.
Yeah.
And it's just about answering to yourself, is what I'm thinking right now is serving me? And what would life be like if I did not have these thoughts? So the moment you start questioning your thoughts, you can see that your thoughts are just thoughts. And because you're the one who thought them, you can change them.
Yeah, at least I can stop believing them. The ones that aren't true, right?
Right.
And I don't know if it has to be any more complicated than that, actually.
Yeah.
Just consistently doing the work. And I mean the work as in the 4 questions. Mm-hmm. And then there's this turnaround, is who would I be without the thought?
I love it. I love that question. Who would I be blank?
Yeah.
Who would I be if I think this? Who would I be if I see myself as that? I love this question. It's thought-provoking. It's powerful.
For me, it's always like free or something like that, right? I'd be free.
I would be free.
Yeah. And who doesn't want to be free? Unconstrained and unconstricted, and have a real freedom and peace.
Yeah.
You might even call that being in the zone.
You might. You might. How do you think your relationship with yourself changed since you were younger? What type of relationship with self do you have right now?
Well, growing and expanding, a growing one. I think that the way that I look at my relationship with myself is that I want to look at, how is the world showing up for me? How do I see myself? Which is really what we're talking about, because I do see myself a certain way. And so how do I see myself? And I'm constantly, daily, looking at how is it that I'm seeing myself, and how is it that I actually want to be seeing myself, and then bringing those things into alignment. And usually whatever it is that I'm seeing about myself that isn't true, doing the work on that. Mm-hmm. And then how is it that I actually want to be seeing myself, and then bringing how I would want to see myself, bringing my actions into alignment with that.
So how do you want to see yourself?
Powerful.
Powerful.
Yeah, that's a word it's very masculine, isn't it? But
no, I love that word too. I want to be powerful.
Yeah, and I don't mean powerful like how a lot of people think about power probably. I don't mean there's a distinction from power and force. And Hawkins did this really incredible work around power versus force. And I'm not really diving into all of that. I just mean, for me, I'll simplify it as that force for me is really, force is the negation of power. It's anything that's controlling or dominating or manipulating. And then power is in the world of influence. It's free of attachment. And power is my ability to translate intention into reality. That's a quote from Werner Erhard. He said that power is the velocity with which you translate intention into reality. And so when I say how I want to see myself is powerful, I mean who I am for myself is somebody who can create an intention and then go fulfill on the intention. It's so extraordinary. We take it for granted because it's normal for us. Yeah, it's like that's what we do. But we're the only, at least that I'm aware of, we're the only being in existence that we can go create an intention from nothing and then go organize ourselves to fulfill on the intention. That's really an extraordinary thing.
So you're talking about manifestation and quick manifestation.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes when we say manifestation, people think we're talking about magic. It's not magic. It's creation. It's all creative.
Creation is magic.
Yeah. Well,
that's how I see it.
I love it.
So you work with amazing people, super successful. What do you find are the traits of the most successful people? Action.
They're people who are in action. They're up to something, and they're in action about the thing that's important to them in their lives.
You know, sometimes I feel like I'm in action. I do a lot of busy work, and it's almost like pushing against a mountain. That's what it feels like sometimes.
Yeah.
Like there is no instant manifestation and the magic of creation. There is just like freaking tons of action and hard work. So when I get into those holes, what would you recommend doing besides just work and TM?
It's like, you know my answer. You knew I was going to say
Tell
TM.
me, give me the blue pill.
It's like you knew I was going to say TM. No, I think we talk. Okay, so then seems to be some sort of a distinction then of what kind of action. So there's that action that's busy work, that I get to feel busy. I had a client who was in sales, and he'd call me up for our coaching call, and I'd say, "How are you?" And he'd say, "I'm so busy." And I just said to him, after this went on for a couple of weeks, I just said, "So what do you get out of being busy?"
It's a badge of honor. I am busy. Oh my God, look at my life. I'm so busy.
Yeah. And for a lot of people, we think that is really great. Like, wow, I'm so busy. And we right now are kind of it's kind of in our culture right now. We have people out talking about the hustle and the grind and staying busy and working 20 hours a day. And how can you get by on 3 hours of sleep? And it's just not my thing. I just think there's a better way to do it, or at least another way, a way that I would prefer to do it. And so action is, where am I getting my action from? That's the question I'd ask you. Where is the action coming from? Is the action is it really a core action that's going to drive forward the thing that you're committed to? Because it's very easy to engage in a bunch of surface actions that won't actually produce the results that we want, but we'll get to feel like we're really busy. And so then there's this question I ask this question of what's the next most powerful action I can take? And I would know that based on what I'm committed to creating, what my intention for what I'm creating is, and then what would be the next most powerful action I could take. And then if I use that as a compass, to make all the decisions that I make about what I do and what I don't do. That really works for me.
And I also think that because we live in this, what I call magical universe, beyond the next most powerful action, there is the emotion. Is this core action coming from fear or from abundance? Because sometimes we can get, like, our vision can get foggy. If we really want to achieve something, we get stressed and we get into a place of fear, lack of abundance. And then, yeah, this is the core action I need to take. But it won't work as well as if you're coming from a place of abundance. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I think you just said it perfectly. If you're foggy and stressed out and anxious or in this fear place, it's just really hard to be effective from that place. Mm-hmm. I heard Jerry Seinfeld, who was talking about his daughter when she was like 13. He was talking about her doing her homework. And I think he just really nailed it for me with the way that he described it. The visual just worked for me because he says, she's doing her homework and she's all stressed out and it's late at night. And he says something like, why don't you just go do TM and then come back and do your homework? And she says, because I'm so busy, I don't have time to do it. And he's like, you're not going to get anything done in the state that you're in right now. Mm-hmm. And so I think if our action is coming from this foggy, anxious, stressed out place, and most of us are just kidding ourselves, like we don't actually know what it's like to not live with stress. Mm-hmm. I mean, really, for me, before having a consistent practice of TM, I would have said, I'm not stressed out. I had no idea how stressed out I was.
Wow.
I mean, it's like I had nothing to compare it to. And so actually being in a place where stress, because when you sleep, your cortisol levels are only resetting like maybe 10% when you're sleeping.
That's it? Wow.
Yeah. And that's like, if you're really good, you'd be really good at sleeping. I think the average is more like 3 or 5% for 8 hours of sleep.
That's terrible.
Yeah. And so what happens is we have this compounding stress. You sleep and you get a little relief from it, but then the next day it just sort of just keeps compounding. And so it gets really, in a way, if you don't have a way to really, and it's not to say that you can't function with it, but I think it just gets more and more difficult if you don't have a way to actually get to zero. Mm-hmm. So we have a stress debt, I think, most of us. And I think that's part of what creates that anxiety and the fear. When you're stressed out, that happens. And I think a lot of people, I think, would say, I'm not really that stressed out. But I think that we just don't know. We don't really have a good thing to compare it to. We don't really know what it would be like to not be stressed out.
Yeah. Do you use a lot of social media for your business?
I don't. Actually, Stefan posted a video on Facebook, ironically.
Stefan is my husband, by the way.
Yeah. Earlier this year, I think it was. And it was Bill Maher talking about the 60-minute thing that they did and how often we're interacting with our phones. And I was already really on the fence, thinking I'm probably wasting a lot of time on Facebook. And I watched the video and I deleted Facebook and Instagram off my phone, and that was it. It hasn't been back on there since. And I haven't missed it, and it doesn't seem to have missed me. And I just realized, wow, there was an enormous amount of time that was being wasted here. And I know for some people, it's a big part of their business, and that's great.
Yeah, like me. That's why I can't disconnect from social media. Everything I do is through social media.
Yeah.
Damn you, social media. So do you have a website yet?
I don't have a website. I don't think I have ever had a website, really.
So you built a multi-million-dollar business with no website and no social media.
Yeah, I mean, I have a Facebook account, but, it's like, I don't remember the last time I posted something on there. And I like to stay about once a month, I will jump on Facebook on my computer and see what's happening in the Facebook world. And that's about it. And anything else that's real important, people tell me.
Oh, wow.
I don't watch TV. I don't watch the news.
Do you watch movies?
I like movies. Yeah, I like movies. Do you still have no Netflix?
No, we got it back.
Oh, you got it back.
Yeah.
You're back on the Netflix drug.
It's a drug. It's an addiction.
I have Netflix. I like Netflix.
I'm not watching it as much as I used to. Liar.
I've never been like a real... Is there we need like a liar button?
Yeah.
You can insert that after. You can put it over the top. That's great. Yeah. So I don't have any problem with that kind of stuff. I enjoy it. I think I'm not a big binge watcher anyway. I never have been, but I do enjoy it. Like, my wife and I will watch a show at night sometimes or something. And yeah, I like it. I'm not trying to be superhuman or something.
You kind of sound like you sound like a robot. An anomaly. Like you do everything opposite what every other marketer tells you to do, and you win the game of life, which is awesome. And I'm like, wow, how'd you do it? TM and Byron Katie. But there is something more. There must be something more.
Yeah, I think maybe I'm just way too technically challenged. And so I've just never been much of a marketer. Uh-huh. I heard marketing distinguished as that which you do that creates selling opportunities.
Ah, that's good then.
But I've never been much of I don't have a real, I don't use social media to promote myself or as a coach. I think the only thing you really need as a coach is you just need to be a good coach. That's it. Now, that's not necessarily true for all businesses. In some businesses, you really have to be great at marketing. You can be really good at what you do, but if no one knows about it. But for me as a coach, I think and I am also not trying to work with 1,000 people. I'm very selective about who I want to work with, and the right people find me.
So when you started as a coach, how did you get your clients?
It's funny. They really found me.
Oh, God. It's the TM thing, huh?
I was meditating and they came to me. I had somebody who I had met in an event, and we had a conversation, and they said, you have to work with me. And I wasn't even coaching. I had another business, and I was doing this other business, and they're like, you have to work with me. You have to coach me. And I had a coach at the time. And so we had this conversation, and we ended up working together in a coaching relationship. And then I had somebody else who called me one day, and he goes, I got to work with you. You got to coach me. And it just sort of, coaching is one of those things that found me. I didn't go out looking for it. It really found me. It came to me.
Right. So another coaching question.
Yeah.
How do you create a shift around beliefs and perception around money?
My answers are almost always the same to all of the questions, which is we really have to get to the root of how am I seeing the thing that I'm dealing with right now. Mm-hmm. So if somebody wanted to have a breakthrough around money, they would want to get to the root of how do I see money right now, or what's my relationship with money right now. Mm-hmm. I had this realization years ago. I used to wake up and I'd be all stressed out and worried about money, and if I was going to have enough, and if I was going to get enough of it today, and I'm going to have enough of it in 2 years, and am I going to have enough of it for next month? And,
I can't imagine you having that stress.
Oh, it was very real. Or it seemed very real. Mm-hmm. And I just realized I'd never done that with oxygen. I'd never woken up and thought, man, I got to save up my oxygen today so that I have enough of it for tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Or I've got to have enough oxygen for the next 2 years. Or when I'm 65, I got to save up oxygen so I have enough of it when I'm 65. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, what's the difference? And the difference is my relationship with oxygen is that there's just always enough. It's just always there when I need it. Now, I've been really fortunate. I haven't had any kind of serious complication where I haven't been able to breathe or to get enough oxygen. And so I know that's a real thing. So it's just an analogy, and somewhere analogies fell. But for me, I realized my relationship with money was going to run out, and there wasn't going to be enough of it. And I needed to be concerned about it and worried about it. And I thought, well, what if I had a relationship with money like I have with oxygen? What kind of a difference would that make if I was thinking, oh, there's just enough of it, and it's just there when I need it? Because that's my experience with oxygen. It's just always there. Does what I just said, does that make any sense?
No, what you just said sounds really like a fantasy to me. It sounds like, oh, just think about it. And I hear it from many gurus, and they're like, oh, just think about it as oxygen. Get into the mindset of abundance and da-da-da. And it sounds like so far away. It doesn't sound like I can relate to it.
Yeah.
I don't have this connecting cord between what you said and where myself personally, am right now with money in abundance. I can see, like, it's almost like, they say that God is a experience and not an idea. Like, I can think God, but I can feel God. And when I feel God, I know that God exists. That's what I feel with the money part, where it's a thought. It sounds really beautiful. I can put it on a bumper sticker on the back of my car, but I can't really relate to it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. It's
You're
great
welcome.
feedback. So what was money like for you growing up?
Oh, for me, horrible, missing.
Okay.
Yeah.
You notice how people that when they grow up with a lot of money,
Uh-huh.
I know a lot of people when they grew up with a lot of money, they just kind of seem to keep having a lot of it.
Yes.
And then there's people who, I don't know what the percentages are of people who actually make a jump from poor to middle class and from middle class to wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm guessing that most people stay in if they were born into poverty, most of them stay in poverty.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're born middle class, they stay in middle class. And there seems to be this comfort zone or something like that for us around money.
Like a thermostat. Yes.
Yeah. If we get too much of it, we got to figure out how to get rid of it. And, it's like, this is uncomfortable. I have too much of this stuff. But we also have a thermostat of what is not enough for us.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll kick on. You got to get more of this. So, yeah, I think that, I heard what I just said about money or some version of that years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought what you thought. That sounds really like a fantasy. It sounds nice. I have no idea how to get to there, though.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the access to getting to there is to get to what is it that I believe about money? So last year,
Mm-hmm.
last year, I had a client that we were having a conversation. I said, we're going to do something together. For the next 30 days, every day, we're going to do the work on a belief about money.
Wow. Every day for 30 days.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was really fascinating, the sorts of things that came up. Can we do something here? Can we do something around money, like you and I?
I'm going to be vulnerable and
Yes,
everybody's
that's what
going to
I'm
listen
asking
to
you.
me. Yes. Okay.
Okay, let's do it.
Don't judge me, people.
Oh, they're going to judge you. It's what they
Please judge me. Don't.
do. Yeah. Maybe they'll judge you to be amazing. It's really interesting. Through being vulnerable, we really find we're invulnerable. I think that's what I found. So
That was very complicated.
So tell me why you want more money.
Why I want more money?
Yeah.
I want to buy my mom a house.
Okay.
And I want to be able to shop in Rodeo Drive.
Okay. I like how you slid the buy your mom a house thing in there first. I like that one.
No, yeah, I have to look a little more spiritual and conscious. And also, I feel like that when you do have money, and even though it's like, yeah, money's not connected to your value and all that good stuff, people do judge you. People look at you differently. You can open more doors with money. You can help more people with money. You can do more for yourself and your family with money, period.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is all of that true, what you just said?
Yes.
Can you know that it's true?
No.
Where did the no come from?
Because I know what's the question is going to be, do you know 100% that it's true? And I don't know 100% that it's true.
This is a woman who's done the work.
Yes. Okay, let's do it. Okay, I'm playing. I'm game. Let's go. Start.
No, I just mean, can you know that it's true?
Yes.
And we just get so wrapped up around the ideas that see, look, in what you just said, there's so much wrapped up around money.
Right.
What is money?
A paper that represents value.
Yeah, but only 3% or something like that of actual money is printed.
Right. So it's basically an idea.
Do you know anyone who is addicted to drugs or has been?
I knew once, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Most drug addicts, you can imagine, they don't usually have a whole pile of drugs that they're storing up in their basement, right?
No.
People, I think that we have to get to really honest about it, is that most of us are addicted to money.
Mm-hmm.
The more we get of it, it's like you get a bunch of money, it's a high.
Mm-hmm.
Feels really good. There's this thing that comes with it. And I think probably a good way to see, am I addicted to money, is if I'm a drug addict, I'm always chasing the next high. I've got to find, where am I going to get the next drug?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm addicted to money, it's going to be the same kind of relationship with it. Where am I going to get the next high? Where's the next hit going to come from?
And then you're going to have withdrawals, as in the stress and anxiety, and when is it going to come from?
Feels like that, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because I live a very good life. I live in abundance, and still it's there.
Well, I have worked with people who have made more money than you and I could spend together. And we've had conversations just like this. The thing that motivated them and drove them to making all the money was the fear that it was going to be gone. And even having all the money, in some cases, tens or hundreds of millions of dollars, this concern sort of looms in the background. Am I going to screw it all up?
Mm.
So I don't think it's unique to you or to me. I think it's a very human condition.
Thank you.
So it's not like I don't have a magic wand. You just have to start to do the work. If you want to transform your relationship with money, you start to do the work around, what's my relationship like with money?
Yeah, for sure. And so something that you would suggest to me and to the audience is maybe writing everything, all the ideas that we have around money, and then taking every sentence and do the work with it for maybe 30 days like you did with your client.
Imagine if you had a whiteboard or just a piece of paper or whatever, and you wrote down money is, and then unfiltered, you wrote down all the things that money is. Mm-hmm. And what that really is, or what that represents, is the context that you have for money. Mm-hmm. And, there's a difference between content and context.
Explain.
People want more money. Let's say that the money that shows up, that's the content. And the context is the space that it shows up in. So I'm going to be a little more general, and then we'll get more specific. So content are the circumstances and the situations. Context is the space that the circumstances or that the situations show up in. So I use an example. If we have a room that's dark and no windows, and it has a blue light, and we pull a yellow car in the room, and we turn the blue light on, the car never looks yellow in that room. And most of us, what we spend most of our time doing is moving the car around in the room. Like, it'll make some kind of a difference if I park it somewhere different in the room. And it won't matter where in the room I park the car. It still won't be yellow in that context. The context being the lighting, the space that it's showing up in. Mm-hmm. So rather than going to work on the content, what we really want to go to work on is the context.
So what you're saying is, rather than working on getting more money, we need to work on our belief system.
Well, you have something like, I don't know exactly what it is, but something like, you would say you want more money. And I'm not trying to put words into your mouth, but you want more money. Mm-hmm. What's something that you don't want more of?
Stress.
Okay, you don't want more stress. Why?
Because it can lead to disease and it feels bad.
Do you have enough of it already?
I have enough of it, yes.
Okay, got it. But money, you want more of it.
Yes.
And I'm guessing you want more of it because there's a context that says I don't have enough of it.
Correct.
And I'm not saying that's the context. And if we had more time, we would dive into it more. But I'm saying something like, if you can identify the context, and you can do this, you can do it doing the work, and you can actually look for yourself. Mm-hmm. And you can see, what's the context that I have for money? And I said, what if you had a context for money that it was like oxygen? And you said, that's really hard to relate to. Like, I can't even really imagine what that would be like. Mm-hmm. And maybe there's some kind of a context like there's not enough of it. And that's like trying to fill up a black hole. If my relationship with money is there's not enough, how much money would be enough money?
It's never going to be enough, like you said, with your clients. Hundreds of millions, billions, it's never going to be enough.
Yeah. It's kind of like, this is easier to see because money's like a thing. We can actually count it and add it up. But I was having a conversation with somebody a couple of days ago, and they said, I really want to be happy. And I said, okay, so what's your relationship with happiness? And what they got was that their relationship with happiness, if we boiled it right down, their relationship with happiness is that happiness is where I'm not.
Ugh, that's horrible. That's painful.
Yeah, if you get that, it's like, I want to be happy, but my relationship with happiness is it's somewhere, it's over there. It's in that other job. It's in that other relationship. It's in those different life circumstances, right? And it boils down to happiness is where I'm not. So I'm here and happiness is somewhere else.
Right.
And the thing about us is that we can only ever be here. So my relationship with happiness has to change. So let's just imagine for a minute that you could say, okay, I would be happy if, and then we drew all these circumstances up. And we said, if I had this job and, this kind of husband, and I had 2.5 children and a dog and a cat and a white picket fence, and then I would be happy. And then let's just say we waved the magic wand and you got all of that. But your relationship with happiness hadn't changed. Well, nothing, all that would be different now is you would have just parked the car in a different spot of the room.
That's brilliant.
It still wouldn't be yellow. And so your relationship with happiness would actually have to be something like, it's here now where I am. And then all of a sudden I'd be happy. And I know that's so backwards for the way that we think and really what we've been taught, at least what I was taught growing up and through my life.
What were you taught? Did you grow up with a lot of money?
No, not at all. I was the middle of 9 kids, and somehow we seemed to have everything that we needed. But no, we didn't have a lot of money. I don't know how my parents did it. They're really extraordinary. I don't know how they did it. But no, we did not have a lot of money. The first time I had a new pair of clothes that I recall was when I was 13. I got a pair of jeans from Walmart. And that was the first new pair of clothes that I remember getting.
Wow.
And I don't say that I actually think my childhood was extraordinary. But we didn't have a lot of money, that's for sure. But I mean, we're not really taught this. There's nowhere, I don't know what class you took in school that taught you, if you want to be happy. We even have this thing about the pursuit of happiness. Well, you'd only pursue happiness if it wasn't right here. If it's here, there's nothing for me to pursue.
Yeah.
And so if we talk about it in the context of money, my relationship with money would have to change. Like, what if it was that I have all the money that I ever needed, always? And it's not positive thinking. It's you actually have to get to the root of what's the context that I've had and then invent a new context for yourself.
Right. I really like that. So we never pursue life. We do pursue liberty, which is freedom. And some of us do pursue happiness as if it's not here.
Yeah.
And we can connect to it. That's powerful.
Here's this example of the things that you want. And I usually ask people, I go, what kind of car do you have? And they say, I have a Honda Accord. And I say, great. Did you wake up this morning and you really wanted a Honda Accord? And they're like, no. And I said, well, what's your relationship with the Honda Accord? And they said, I have a Honda Accord. Oh, so you mean you're not wanting it? No, I have it. Oh, okay. So your relationship with it is you have it. You're not wanting it. And you notice that about us. We don't want things that we have for the most part. That's not usually what the things that we're wanting are things that we think we don't have.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're going to have something, it's not a relationship of wanting. It's a different relationship. And that's the thing that we have to sort through and get to for ourselves. No one can give you the answer to it.
Mm-hmm. What do you want?
It's a great question. Currently, I am want-free. That might change in 2 seconds. But currently, I think I'm want-free. I can't think of something they go, I really want that. And I think part of that for me is because I know that my language creates. And I am not in a big hurry to create myself as wanting. Because you notice wanting is really degrading.
Yes.
It doesn't actually produce the thing that you want. It produces a further separation of the thing that you want.
So what do you say if you want to say, I want something? You won't say the word want? What would you say? Something?
What I'm committed to producing.
What I'm committed to producing.
So let's say you might say, I want more money. And I would say, I'm committed to producing X amount of dollars. And then I'd go organize myself around producing the money.
Wow.
And it isn't just like a clever play on words. It's actually a difference in my relationship with the thing.
So you never say, I want something?
Well, I wouldn't say never.
I want coffee. I say I create the possibility of coffee showing up. I'm committed to coffee.
I know, but why want it? Why not just go get it?
Because when you say I want it, somebody can give it to you. You delegate.
Well, if it's working, I say stick with it, because I'm really just, bottom line for me, I'm just a fan of what works.
Mm-hmm.
So if it works, and in the context of money, if wanting money works, I say keep wanting money. It's never worked for me.
Right. So instead of wanting money, what would you suggest?
Well, you tell me.
No, you tell me.
If you said, I want more money, what might you say? What might your relation? See, I'm making an assertion that you only want things you think you don't have.
Uh-huh.
So if you weren't wanting it, well, then what? I don't know. You might just be committed to something.
Yeah. Or in good relationship with.
Yeah. And there's also intention.
Mm-hmm.
You could intend for coffee to show up. But there's not an attachment in the intention. There's no attachment to it.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Well, I was right in the beginning of the podcast when I said, this is going to be mind-blowing. It's really good. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's fun. I can't believe an hour or however long it's been has gone by.
Yeah, extraordinary. So before we say goodbye, what are your 3 top tips to living a stellar life?
Okay, TM. That was a setup, right? You were setting me up to say that. No, really. Look, if I can't create space in my life, it's just not going to be what it could be. So I'm obviously a big fan of TM. It's something that I practice. It's something that my whole family practices, my wife, my kids. I'm a big fan of it. And then consistency. I think that's key.
Mm-hmm.
And then for me, it's surrounding myself with people who are going to bring something out of me that wouldn't be there. This idea of surrounding myself with the people who are going to bring out the best in me.
Mm.
And I'm pretty, I guess you could say, protective, intentional about who I surround myself with. So that's off the top of my head. I think, those are really some of the, consistency for me, TM, and then being intentional about who I surround myself with. A rising tide raises all ships.
Beautiful. And where can people find you if they want to contact you?
That's great. So I'm on Facebook, Ephraim Olschewski. I think we can probably put my Facebook page in there.
Yes, I'll have everything in the show notes as well. So if you're driving, you don't have to write right now.
Yeah. And then email Ephraim at ephraimolschewski.com. I'll reply to emails. I don't have some staff over here. It's me. And I reply to emails. If people want to talk with me, I talk with them. Yeah, I think that's probably on Facebook. People use Facebook Messenger and then email.
Wonderful. Ephraim, this was a joy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been great.
Thank you for joining me on my mission to light people up and change lives around the world. I hope today's conversation inspires you to step up, go after the life of your dreams, and be who you want to be. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go to stellarlifepodcast.com for show notes, transcripts, and other cool stuff. And please subscribe, review, and help spread the word by sharing us on Facebook and Twitter. Have a lovely day, and I'll catch you on the next episode.